Your network consists of a lot of different networking equipment and a lot of hosts that are utilizing that network equipment. Let's talk about some of the things that you can do on the host, that's the laptops, desktops, and the end user devices, of what you would want to do to those machines to make sure that they're secure. When it comes to host-based security, there's a lot of things that we could implement to secure our hosts. We're going to start out by talking about the peripheral or the network and how to control the network aspects of our hosts. We're going to get into the operating system and what we should do on the operating system. We'll talk about malware protection, privileged accounts, internet browsing, disk cloning and deep freezing. We'll talk about disk encryption, patching and updating, how we can use group policy to implement things, talk about mobile device management, and wrap things up talking about monitoring these different aspects. When it comes to the peripheral of your network, there are several things that we said you want to implement to secure your network. That would be things like a firewall or a intrusion detection system or intrusion prevention system that protects your network. Well, there are host-based systems as well. That is, just as your network, you want to have those systems involved, you can install software, or sometimes operating systems come with it, where it's protecting the system. An example of this is a host-based or /software firewall. So a software firewall could be something that you install on your host, or it could be already integrated, like Microsoft Windows has a firewall. And so it could be on your host already, protecting the host already, but making sure that you're maintaining that it's up to date, and that you have it enabled is going to be important. And then same thing, host-based intrusion detection system or prevention systems are out there as well. And then also disabling ports and protocols. So when we're communicating across networks, we actually use ports and protocols for that communication, and we can turn off certain ports and protocols so that way we're not using them. So it's recommended that you do that on your end hosts. We also want to harden the operating system. The operating system is that base level of instructions like Microsoft Windows or Linux that's running on your machines. And so it comes with a lot of services enabled. Once again, to give you some functionality so that way it works straight out of the box and gives you certain features right away. But you're not necessarily going to use all those features. So it's recommended to disable any unused services. Install only required software. So don't install a lot of extra software on your machine that's unnecessary. Make sure you're applying patches regularly and update any drivers that those machines have. We're going to want to make sure your machines and your hosts are protected against malware, that you have some sort of antivirus or anti-malware installed and updated on your machines. Now, there are some systems out there that come with this pre-installed, like Microsoft Windows has their version that is pre-installed on the machines that's scanning for this stuff. But we're going to want to make sure that's updated. We should probably consider something like an endpoint detection and response. This takes things a step further. An antivirus or anti-malware scans files and code and different software to see if something's wrong with that software. An endpoint detection and response actually is looking for behavior. And so it's taking that next step and saying, is there some odd behavior that's happening on your machine that should be flagged or dealt with? We're also going to want to protect any privileged accounts. So these machines have administrator accounts, something that's going to actually be able to install software and do things at an escalated level. So it's best in practice not to give privileged accounts to end users. In fact, even my IT people who have worked for me, I make them have two different accounts. The account that they use for their regular day-to-day, them being an employee, and their account for administrative privilege or escalated privileged accounts. So that way they can perform administrative duties on these different computers. And they use them for two different purposes. You'll also want to practice safe browsing practices. This is where a lot of malware and things get installed on our computers, is by going to sites and places that we shouldn't be actually going to. And so this is especially important on things like servers. And so servers will come with actually some safe browsing settings turned on, so that way you can't make it to these sites. But make sure you're careful on where you go. Do some sort of content screening and blocking. Make sure that the servers are protected, because out of everything, that's going to be one of the more critical things that you're protecting on your network is your servers. One thing we may want to consider is disk cloning or disk imaging. That's where we take a copy of the machine and now we have a duplicate. We can use this to set up other machines once it's hardened, and then we can roll out machines faster to make sure that we're rolling out hardened machines. But another thing that this has is an added advantage. If something happens on this machine, like maybe it's corrupted, it has some malware that gets installed, we can take this disk image that's known to be good and then re-image this machine, and so then we wipe that all out. And making this fast and easy allows us to be able to overcome any kind of discrepancies or anything that happens to our machines very quickly. We also have something called deep freeze. And so deep freeze is like disk cloning, except for it happens on the individual machine. So the individual machine creates a clone of itself. And then what happens is that somebody can get on and do whatever they want to this machine right here. But as soon as they log off, then this deep freeze then returns it back to the original. What this allows is both from a security perspective, but it also allows that user to really download and do anything they want to be efficient and productive with what they're doing. But then when they walk away from the machine, it's completely cleaned every time. And so that's what a deep freeze is. Another thing that's becoming very standard is encrypting your hard drives. And so if this machine, especially on your mobile devices, ever gets stolen, you want to make sure that that information is secure. So you want to encrypt the drives on that machine. BitLocker is Microsoft's version that does that. One thing you hear often is make sure your software is updated and patched. But how do you do that? It's not enough just to let your end users make sure that they are updating and patching their machines. A lot of times it won't happen. So you need to implement some sort of patch management. That patch management includes some sort of testing, making sure that the patches are going to be successful and not going to cause more problems than they're worth. That you deploy this consistently, that you're able to track what's happening and be able to document the results. So patch management is a huge part of making sure that your systems are hardened and continually maintained on an ongoing basis. And you don't want to leave out the applications that are on that machine as well, because not only is the machine's OS need to be patched and updated, but you've got software on there that needs to be updated and patched as well. So remove extra software, disable unneeded services, roles, or features, and install the latest patches on those applications. Your computer has a bunch of policies on it, policies that help manage security around it. And the thing is with it is if you want to implement good security on an organizational wide and you want to make sure it's implemented consistently, then you're going to need some sort of mechanism to do that. Group policies do that. You can roll out group policies for your machines, and it applies to all your machines. So some of those things that you may want to consider rolling out are things like logout timers or idle timeout and screen locks or enabling certain passwords. And so making sure that things are enabled and working on the machine in a secure manner, you need to do that company-wide. Group policy allows you to do that. A lot of times mobile devices get overlooked with that though. How do we roll out things from a mobile standpoint? Because not the same things apply on mobile devices, things like tablets and phones. So that's where a mobile device management can come into play. You can select and purchase an MDM solution that helps you roll out mobile devices and make sure that security and things are consistently applied across your mobile devices. And of course, everything we roll out, it's not good enough just to roll it out, that we need some sort of monitoring and making sure that it's happening. Everything from the patching like we talked about, or antivirus, or if you have an endpoint and detection and response system, maybe having some sort of managed endpoint detection and response system, and logs and alerts. So things that are going to be able to monitor all of this and manage all of it is going to be important. In this video, we talked about host-based security, how to protect the end hosts. And we talked about things like networking, making sure that there's a firewall turned on, making sure that there's some sort of host-based intrusion detection or prevention system, taking a look at the operating system, making sure it's patched and updated, taking a look at malware, making sure that there's some sort of anti-malware or an endpoint detection and response set up on it, making sure that end users are not on the machine with privileged accounts, that's only, that administrative rights is not just given out to everyone. Making sure that internet browsing is safe and that there's some sort of content filtering on them. We took a look at disk cloning and deep freezing and how we can roll back to those images or to using deep freeze to make sure that our machines are safe and secure. We could use disk encryption especially for our mobile devices, but really for all devices, we should be thinking about encryption. For patching and updating and making sure we're doing that consistently and rolling out policies consistently using things like group policy or mobile device management. And finally, talked about monitoring and the important steps of monitoring our services and our patching and all of this to make sure that our machines are safe and secure.